Sometimes in FM, you go from being the greatest manager in the world to being the worst manager in the world. Or at least that's what you think. And that's what's happening to me right now. And I'm right in the middle of it. And after one episode recently, another disastrous episode, I decided perhaps I need to have a break from the game. And then I thought to myself, they wouldn't, would they? Surely not. Surely they haven't factored in the fact that your manager in FM might need a holiday. After all, I've been working 365 days a year for 8 years. Do I need a holiday in game? So I decided no, that's not possible, and I'm going to disprove that theory. The results I got, though, of the tests I did are quite surprising. But during the course of this tongue-in-cheek investigation, I did learn a couple of things. Let's go and kick some balls on the beach. Hello and welcome back to FM with Old Man Phil, and if you are a brand new visitor, I'm Phil and welcome to the channel. And today we are just taking a tongue-in-cheek look at something that I just wanted to eliminate from my thinking at the time. I wanted just to eliminate the possibility that your manager in-game might need at some time to go on holiday. For after all, I've been playing this save for 8 seasons now, and I've never had a day off. 365 days a year. He must be knackered. And looking at the results that I can see on the screen here, you'd probably think, yep, you're right, he's knackered, he needs a holiday. But when we go back to where I took over the save, which was here, you can see my results were absolutely outstanding. And we'd taken Juventus, who were pretty poor before I arrived, and we turned everything around, and that sea of green was a joy to behold. And those following along with this save in the stream will know these were not easy results. What we had to do on many of the occasions was to implement a lot of in-game management. Many of these games we won from losing positions. Many of these games were so difficult to win. One in particular I was particularly proud of when we beat Inter coming from behind with 2 goals in the last few minutes. We made a lot of changes, did a lot of game planning, match preparation, and we were getting the results. But then it stopped. And suddenly now we have found ourselves in what looks like an absolutely desperate situation. And the players here at Juventus cannot win a football match to save their lives. In fact, I'm starting to wonder if they know what a football is and why they're chasing it around for 90 minutes. They look like a completely different team to the one I had a few weeks ago. And following the last episode, I did question whether or not I needed a break from the game. I had gone from what I thought as the greatest manager in the world to possibly the worst manager in the world. The players hated me. The board hated me. The fans were calling for my execution. And I think even the canteen lady was dribbling all over my halftime hot dog. I was the most hated person in the club. I was becoming marginally less popular than the Black Death. And I could not turn this around, and I still haven't turned it around as yet. Although there is a little sign that things might be getting better. And it was at this time that I was making a cup of tea when I decided in my depression, perhaps I need a break from the game. Perhaps I'm just not focused, perhaps I'm not doing what I should be, and that's why the problems are occurring. And it was at that time that I thought, surely not. Surely the game haven't factored in that the manager needs a holiday, even in-game. So I decided I need to get this out of my system. So I decided I'm going to run a series of tests and we're going to disprove that theory and that the manager does not need a holiday. It's probably me just making some poor decisions. The results have quite surprised me and may surprise 1 or 2 of you. But remember, this is just a tongue-in-cheek investigation. But at the end of the day, I did learn 2 things. One of those things I believed for a long time has finally now been proved as a result of these tests. But the other thing I learned by accident running one of the tests may be something quite significant that I did very early on in this poor run. And although I have no conclusive evidence of that yet, it is definitely something that I want to investigate further. But first, I think we should take a look at what kind of tests that we ran. First of all, because I am a complete idiot and I have been known to do very stupid things in FM, I always save a copy of the previous live stream to my folder. And so therefore, being a complete idiot has actually helped me to do this research, because at the end of the last episode, I could go back 2 episodes because I had saved copies of the file, and I could rerun the tests from a specific place, which I wouldn't have been able to do without being completely insane. The reason why I save these episodes and keep them for a week before clearing them out is that I have been known to save saves under the wrong save when I'm saving a game, and therefore completely destroying all the work that I've done previously. So I set up that system and it works very well now, and therefore being a complete idiot has helped me out here because I was able to go back to where the problem began. Now, I know you're going to say, what an idiot, that must take you forever to update that folder. But it only takes me about 5 hours on a Saturday to clear out the old files and update them with the new ones. And I know, as a very mentally infirm person, that is a price that I'm willing to pay. But then, I've always said, and I always will, I'm old. I can get away with it. You can't. And so I had an episode which started with the game against Cremonese. And so the tests are based on the fact that things are already going wrong. We'd lost 3 games and drawn 1. And I decided, let's conduct a series of tests to see if I need a holiday. And so I did 3 tests. And in each test, I played the following 3 games 5 times. Because the game will change the result, and I wanted it to be an average rather than just based on one string of results. And so that was quite tedious running the 3 games, Cremonese, Panathinaikos and Salento. I had to run that 5 times for each of the 3 tests, 15 times in total. But in the end, we have got there, and we have come up with some quite interesting results. And so we were going to focus on these 3 games. Things had already started to go wrong. We'd lost 3 and drawn 1 of our previous 4 games, and things were not looking good, including a 3-2 defeat away at Panathinaikos. So we were going to play 2 league games, one against Cremonese and one against Salento away, and then we would, in the middle, play the game against Panathinaikos to see if we could rescue that Europa League tie in the playoff round. And there were 3 different things that we looked at. And the first thing that I decided, the first thing to test, and this was the most difficult to test because I decided to keep playing in the way that I already had been, to keep battling it out, to keep trying to get results from these games that I clearly wasn't able to get anymore. And so I was playing incomprehensive highlights and had to play 15 games in essence, which took a long time. In fact, I put in an all-nighter on this one. But I wanted to get rid of this assumption that was going on in my head. And so it seemed to me at the time worth trying. And then the second thing that we tried, which was much easier, was just to go on holiday and to see how the assistant manager and the staff got on while I was sunning myself on the beach. And then the final thing that I did was I decided that it might be interesting to see what if I turn up for the first 10 minutes of a game and then go to the pub. And that might give me a different experience. So is the fact of just turning up for 10 minutes and then disappearing, is that going to have some influence on the results that I got? And the results I got absolutely stunned me. Now, I don't take them very seriously, but they are quite interesting. No, these are not factual results by any stretch of the imagination, but they did stun me for a little bit. And I think we should start with the very first one that I did. This was me battling on, and let's have a look at how I got on. And so, as you can see, I didn't do particularly well. And in terms of the position that I finished in the league, there's an 11th and a 10th there. And the highest that I got to was a 7th. And in that particular run, I beat Cremonese by 2-1 and won in the Europa League, which is not a surprise, and then managed to draw in the final game against Salento. And so it was 4 points out of a possible 6 in the league, which I achieved on 3 occasions. And so the total points I got while I was battling out, keeping going with what I had been doing, was 14 points from the entire 5 runs. Now that is probably not so bad. To get half the points that you possibly could during a time when it looks like it's really bad for you is probably not that bad. And the positions in the table, 8th, 7th, 8th, 11th and 10th, in terms of the scheme of things, we really haven't suffered that badly. And overall, we have played in the league 10 games. We've won 3, drawn 5, and only lost 2. And it's the fact that we have only lost 2 that gives me hope. Battling it out does seem that we are grinding out points where we possibly would not get them before. And so I wasn't actually feeling too depressed about that. This is a time of problems, and we seem to have managed to keep our heads above water. The next test that I conducted was to go on holiday. And as previously, we ran the 5 tests covering those 3 games. Now, these are quite interesting results. Now, it's very interesting that the positions in the table are pretty similar. In fact, I would say slightly worse. There is test run number 4, where we won all of the games, and therefore we ended up finishing in 4th. But the positions in the table tended to look a little bit worse than when I was battling it out for myself. But the total points that I got in this save was 19, and that came out as a total of 1.9 points per game. 2 points per game at a time when the chips are really down is going to be an exceptional performance. And in terms of the way the games panned out, we played 10, we won 5, drew 4, and only lost 1 game out of those 10 games. We also, in Game 2, as you can see, won all 5 games in the Europa League. Despite what was going on around it, we always won that particular game, as we had done in the previous save when I was battling it out myself. The fact that we had only lost 1 game when I wasn't there is actually a better performance than what I had done when I was there. And the 19 points is a clear increase. And the 1.9 points per game is a clear increase in me being there. So starting to suggest that I should go on holiday. So maybe there is something in this. Is the best thing to do when the chips are down is to go on holiday, because I actually did a lot better. And then in the final save, I decided to go to the pub. And when I went to the game for 10 minutes and then disappeared to the pub and put my feet up, things were better than when I was actually battling it out myself, but slightly worse than when I went on holiday completely. And looking at the positions in the table, it's very similar to what had happened in the previous 2 tests. The worst that we got when we were going to the pub was 10th. We did get a total of 16 points, which amounted to 1.6 points per game in the league. And that meant that we had performed better than when I was doing it by myself, but slightly worse than when I had disappeared to the beach completely and decided to leave everything to the staff. In terms of the games played, we played 10, we won 5, drew 1, but we lost 4. So going to the pub is probably not going to be the best idea, because we did somehow contrive to lose 4 of our fixtures. And so putting that together in terms of an analysis, what did it tell me? So if we look at it, in the first save, where I tried to battle it out for myself, we played 10, won 3, drew 5 and lost 2. Not a bad performance, because we achieved 14 points with an average points per game of 1.4. And our average finishing position in the table was 9th. Given that the chips are down here, to actually maintain a position around 9th or 10th was extremely good. If we can do that when things are really bad, then things will improve, and we should start seeing ourselves move up the table when we get our act together, and hopefully that would be very soon. And then test number 2. This is where we turned up for the match, and after 10 minutes got bored and went off to the pub. And so at the end of that, we'd played 10, we'd won 5, drawn 1, lost 4. We had a total of 16 points at 1.6 points per game. We finished in 8th as an average position, slightly better than we had done when I was on my own, battling it out. And then the final save, where I completely disappeared, where I decided I'm just going off to the beach and you guys can manage it by yourself. I played 10, won 5, drew 4 and lost 1. This was clearly the most successful of the runs of tests that I did. We got 19 points at an average of almost 2 points per game, although the position in the table remained the same, but was in fact the highest that we have been so far since this particular save began. So looking at those results, it is probably better to, when the chips are down, to go on holiday for a few weeks and let the assistant manager deal with it. He's going to do better than turning up to the game and then disappearing to the pub. And he definitely looks like he's going to do better than if you sit there and try to battle it out yourself. Now, I know this is completely tongue-in-cheek, and these results mean nothing. But it does indicate to me that sometimes perhaps you just got to hold your hands up and say that you are not as good as you think you are. And we are all human beings, and we all make mistakes, and we all create the problems that we are suffering. Whether or not it's worth taking another look later when I go into another period of bad form, and does going on holiday make a difference? I don't know. I don't think they have factored this into the game, but the results clearly seem to indicate that it might be what you need to do. Your manager might need a rest. Now, I did say that I learned two things. The first thing that I learned from running these tests was that despite the fact that we were 3-2 behind in the playoff section of the Europa Leagues, I knew that we were always going to qualify for the next round, the round of 16 in that competition. That seems to me to be coded into the game, that you will not lose in the playoffs. You will lose possibly in the round of 16, but the game will never let you lose in the playoff section of your European competition. That I have suspected for some time. The tests clearly showed that when we played the game 15 times, we won 15 times. And even when I was playing it live and we'd lost 3-2 in the first leg, in the second leg, somehow when everything is falling apart, we managed to beat them by 6-1. When everything around us was crumbling, the game made sure that we qualified to face Celtic in the next round, the round of 16. Now, we could lose from here, but it was always going to get me through the playoff rounds. I think I have pretty much proved now what I already suspected. Now, the major thing that I learned from this was a mistake that I did when conducting one of the tests. Because part of what I was doing was always allowing the assistant manager to give the team instruction in the team talk before the game. I was going to try and keep each one of the tests as the same as I possibly could. So I was allowing the assistant manager to choose what team talk he gave before each game. In one of the saves, I realized, oh my goodness me, I've broken that rule. And having won the game, I then decided, no, that's not fair. We have to go back and run the test again because I had given the team talk myself, which was different to what the assistant manager had said. So I reran it. And although I lost the game the second time around, I felt that was much fairer. It was then I began to think, is it something to do with the instructions? Because I changed the instruction from what the assistant manager recommended to my own and we won the game. When I changed it back, we lost. And then I remembered that either against Fiorentina or against Panathinaikos in the first leg, in the post-game team talk, I had clicked the button which said basically, you weren't really very good today and I'm disappointed, but you created enough chances, and if you trust the process, then we will start getting results very soon. I forgot that I had clicked that button, and then when I came back for the game against Cremonese, I decided it was time to change the tactics, and so I experimented at that point with suggestion from the assistant manager to change tactics, to change different roles, and things really didn't improve at that point. When looking back at the results overall, things did improve slightly, but not a lot that I can actually say we are out of this bad run. What I had told the players, either in a game against Fiorentina or at the end of the game against Panathinaikos, was trust the process. I then decided in the next game not to trust the process. I myself changed everything because I did not trust what was going on. And is it that team talks are so important and that when I told the players trust the process and then I showed them I didn't trust the process, is that what went wrong? And is that why I am having so many problems trying to put this right? The next live stream, which will take place tomorrow, which will start with Genoa, play against Celtic, and then Sassuolo, is going to be very interesting, because I am now going to eat my words and admit to the players I was wrong. I didn't trust the process, and I am now going back to what the process was. And I am going to go back to the old tactic that we were playing, and we're going to see what results we get against those three clubs now. Is that what I did? And so, if that has become so important, and I have suspected that in FM24 your team talks are very, very important, did I make a dreadful error telling them, trust the process, and then I showed them I don't trust the process? And that conflict has caused the massive decline that you can see. We shall see, because now I'm going back to what we were doing before, and I am going to trust the process, and we'll see if the results change. Join us on Sunday night at the live stream at 8 o'clock on YouTube, and we'll be looking at, if I trust the process now, will my results change? And that's it for this video. It's a tongue-in-cheek look at whether or not your manager needs to go on holiday. And the results seem to suggest that he does. He cannot go working 365 days a year forever. He needs a break. But one thing is for sure, do not let this game drive you into the loony bin. Because I'm sure at times that's what the game is trying to do to me. Don't throw your PC out the window. Don't get divorced. Don't hate everybody. And don't end up in a mental institution. It's only a game. If you are brand new to the channel and you like FM content and you love to see people suffer playing the game, you are definitely in the right place. So why not? Hit that subscribe button and click the bell and you'll be updated when we upload future videos. And while you're there, drop us a like, because it's likes and comments that will help our videos be pushed out to people who don't even know yet that we exist. And all that remains to be said now is thanks for watching. It was a fun video to make. And all that remains to be said now is stay safe, take care. We'll see you in the next one.